Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Govs on the Go Faculty Spotlight, a podcast featuring faculty in the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Buzz Hoon. I'm the Dean of the College. I'm also the host of the podcast. And today, I'm talking with Dr. Jeffrey Wood, professor in the Department of Music here at Austin Peay. Dr. Wood, so glad to have you on the podcast.
My pleasure.
So let's begin at the beginning, which is an usual place to start, but you told me you've been here almost 40 years, and you were hired by the great Dr. Sally Fott.
Yes, I was. He was my first chairman, and very much a mentor in many ways. He is still very active on campus at the age of 94, and comes to concerts regularly, so we still stay in touch.
That's awesome. And the fact that you not only found a place here, but then you have stayed and become part of the fabric of that department over that period of time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of growth, a lot of change, but why did it mean so much to you to continue to stay here?
Well, first, I should preface this that literally everybody in my family teaches. My grandfather was a superintendent of schools in Grinnell, Iowa, around 1904. So we've been at this a rather long time, my family. My father was a teacher, both of my sisters have taught, and so teaching was a very natural thing. And it's what I've always wanted to do. What kept me here, aside from some external issues, really starts with the students. It's a good group of kids, and I've really enjoyed working with them. A lot of the issues that you read about in the press, they're not issues here. They come to us inexperienced, but by and large, they are interested in learning. And that relationship has kept me going.
That's great. And among your contributions to the department, and we're going to get into the music composition in just a moment, I want to begin with talking about your role of teaching piano to our students over this period of years. You've probably seen a number of wonderful students that have come and gone, and in fact, looking back, what have you discovered about teaching that 40 years ago you weren't quite as good at?
The longer I teach, the more appalled I am at what I don't know.
That's true.
Teaching is always about a willingness to learn. Because every time you present material to a student or to a class, you'll get a reaction from that class, and it seems to work. And then the next class or the next student, it'll be different, and they will look at the same material in a very different way. With the piano students I've had, the student I have currently is a student of a former student of mine, and it's one of the main reasons he's here. But he has a very deep and abiding fascination with contemporary music, which of course appeals to me as a composer, and but I have also had students who were much more traditional and wanted to do traditional repertory. Another former student of mine was a session player in Nashville. And literally, I don't think this is ever going to change. Literally the only student I've ever had who played on David Letterman. Because he toured with Randy Travis for a long time, and there just were no acts in Nashville that he wasn't part of. But he decided to come back to school and get a bachelor's degree, and then stayed for a master's, and then did his doctorate at Ohio State. we were about the same age. So that was interesting. I mean, there were areas of music that, I mean, he'd forgotten more than I would ever know.
Yeah.
But there were other areas that he was a complete novice to. So it was an interesting experience. And all of them, they bring something, and that I learn from all of that. And it makes me go down certain paths in my own private research as I try to, I mean, address some of the challenges that we have now in music. You know, the state of classical music in the United States, the state of contemporary music, generally speaking. There are a lot of things, and my students are going to have to grapple with these things. It's more than just teaching the fingers to wiggle or pencils to move or computers, whatever. So that's pretty much it.
Well, you mentioned having those type of relationships, and I'm sure that there's a little bit of you in their performances as they go. Do you at all enjoy their success, their relish, their accomplishments along the way?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. The student I was mentioning, who had been a session player, he's now teaching at Tennessee State. And I have another student who you interviewed, as a matter of fact, Greg Jackson, who is teaching in Alabama. And I try to stay in touch with them as much as we can. Other students, another student of mine has a whole, essentially a vocal institute going on in Cincinnati. And he invited me up there to work with some people a couple of summers ago. And so a lot of them they're doing amazing things. And I have others who are, and these are mostly former theory students, but who are teaching in the local schools and in the region, in the area. And they come on campus every once in a while, so we can kind of trade horror stories.
Still, it's a wonderful gift for you to have that. And, you know, one of the things that I've also noticed is that you continue to perform. And my question is, why is that important to keep your skills up at that level?
Well, I've been doing a lot of performing lately, mostly to try to come back from the COVID period where we weren't doing much of anything, and performing is something you keep it up, or you decide, okay, that's it, I'm done, and I don't. There's too much stuff I want to play. Mm-hmm. There's too much literature that remains on my bucket list, if you will, and I love the music. I mean, fundamentally, this is where, you know, when people ask me about my job and my career, I can honestly say to them, maybe at the end of the school year, I'm not feeling quite so positive about it, but by August, I'm thinking this year will be different. This year it'll happen. I don't know precisely who it was that said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity, but it's also the definition of education. Mm-hmm. We, in a sense, are doing the same thing year after year, but I work all summer trying to find new things, new approaches, new pieces. I'm trying to expand into areas of composers that have been underrepresented. And this is hard to do because a lot of the, majority of the music that we study is in the public domain. It's very easy to find the music. Music by contemporary African American composers, contemporary women composers. this stuff's all under copyright, so we either buy the music, which can be very, very expensive, or try to come up with a creative way around that. But I am constantly doing research into composers I don't know, from cultures I don't know. And it just never gets dull for me.
Well, let's shift to the music composition part, because I think that over the years you've won a number of competitive awards. You've received that recognition, been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, and you also have been commissioned by a number of different organizations to produce your work. Can you give us any insight into how the writing process happens for you?
Commissions are wonderful things because you have a sense from the beginning of what it is they're looking for. I don't always write on commission. There are pieces I just write because I want to write them. But commission pieces can be really a lot of fun. I received a commission from the First Presbyterian Church in Clarksville to write a piece for their bicentennial celebration, and I was very flattered. But they had very specific ideas as to what I was supposed to use, and they had a particular hymn that they wanted me to incorporate, and they wanted at the premiere to have the audience actually take part and sing with the chorus and the organist. And I just found that challenge to be really intriguing. And I had a blast writing the piece. I think that it's best if a composer is useful. So on those occasions, I don't really think there are any groups locally that I haven't written for at one time or another. But it's always exciting, and I enjoy it enormously.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you think you might be better at, either having somebody commission you or just doing things for your own creative sake.
Not a question I can really answer. Some pieces, I did a piece a few years ago that was based on the life of Joseph Marek, who's better known as the Elephant Man. And I came across a book of poems by Kenneth Sherman, who's a Canadian poet, that went into the life of Joseph Marek. And I was very excited about the poems, but I had been aware of Marek's story going back into the 1970s and had been kind of carrying it around. One day I want to do something with this. I don't know what. And the story has been turned into, there's an opera, there are several plays, one of which became quite prominent, the play The Elephant Man by Bernard Pomerantz. And I got to see the first production of that when I was living in New York, when it was on Broadway. And so it was, when I discovered the book of poems by Sherman, that was just serendipity. Then he just pulled everything together. And that was just a piece that I'd wanted to write for a very long time. But commissions are fun. Commissions are things I enjoy because I feel like it's serving a purpose.
And that comes up again because I think I found a quote where you said that composer should be useful to his community.
I believe that, yes.
Yeah, well, can you explain that for our viewers and our listeners?
Well, composers, because it's a very solitary activity, you can get a little encased in your own bubble. And I like it better when I'm able to work with people in the community and hopefully provide something that has some value above and beyond just whatever pleasure I get out of writing the piece. There was a time, I mean, composers in the 19th century would have understood this immediately. You know, the purpose of the composer was, was quite clearly defined. In those days, of course, if you wanted music, you made it. I mean, there were no recordings, and so you made your own music, so there was enormous demand. That's not really the case now, and our business is struggling with this. I am old enough to remember times when many significant works of 20th century music were simply not available on recording. That is not really the case now. I am sometimes shocked at how many different versions of even some very obscure pieces are available on public sites like YouTube. So it's changed. It is in the process of changing. And orchestras are struggling with this, and individual performers are struggling with it. Opera companies certainly are struggling with it. It's a rapidly changing situation. But I think fundamentally, for me, I want to write something that people can relate to. I tell my students it's important to have an idea of what it is you want to say. And the clearer that you are in saying that, the more likely it'll be that you'll connect with people. But the fact that you say a thing and even say it extremely well doesn't guarantee that anybody's particularly interested in listening. And there's nothing we can really do about that. But I believe that a well-conceived piece, a piece that actually says something, will find its audience. I believe that very strongly. But as with any of us in academia, whether we're writing articles or writing books or, in my case, writing music, you put it out there. You hope. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it incredibly doesn't. And you just learn to roll with that. I can look back at some of my pieces, and I can tell you why that one didn't work. But there are others I don't know. I feel like I said what I wanted to say as clearly as I could, and I still think it was worth saying. So when I get a commission, then it is an organization that is asking for something. And so for the Presbyterian Church Commission, it was, theirs was a celebration. 200 years. There's nothing to sneeze at. And so I wanted to write something that I felt was appropriately celebratory to help that organization with their celebrations. And so I went into it pretty much having a sense of what it was I was going to need to do. And the technical challenges of, okay, you need to write something for a chorus and an organist and then a congregation, and it's all got to fit together. And I really enjoy those things, I have to say. And it's kind of like a piece I did for brass quintet that uses, it was kind of a suite of Christmas carols. And I found 3 Christmas carols, one English, one German, one French. And I discovered in the intricacies of counterpoint that I could get them all to fit together at the same time. I really enjoyed that sort of thing. So that they were sort of each individually presented and then brought together as a totality.
Well, and I would say that looking at your career as an outsider that did some research about you, you are a great collaborator with other faculty, with our students, with our alumni, with visiting artists. For instance, you also worked on Dr. Licari's installation ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a personal favorite of your work that you say that of all the things that I've done, this is the one I'm most proud of?
Probably the piece based on Joseph Merrick. It exists kind of in two forms right now. One is a song cycle of pretty enormous proportions. It's nearly 50 minutes long, which is big for a piece. And I remember thinking while I was writing it, you're out of your mind. But I was having so much fun. I didn't want to leave that world. And then I took a number of those songs and orchestrated them. And Gateway Chamber Orchestra did that a few years ago, just prior to COVID, and it was performed. But that is a piece that, for a variety of reasons, is very, very close to my heart. And it's one that, I have to say, I didn't find it particularly hard to write, as I've been, in a sense, preparing for a very long time. When you're talking about a subject matter that, I first became aware of 50 years ago, and had just been carrying around, with that sort of one day, if I can just find the right. So Kenneth Sherman's poems gave me that out. And we have corresponded, and he has heard my take on his poems, and that can always be a little delicate. But he was very, very kind and said some very nice things.
Well,
and so the whole experience was very positive. And there are still plans to record it. But right now, things are a little bit up in the air about that. COVID didn't help.
No, it shouldn't did. But I thank you not only for sharing those stories, but for your career here at Austin Peay. And next time I see Solly Font, I'm going to thank him as well for hiring you.
We all should be thanking Solly.
We should all. But so great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thanks to all of our listeners and viewers out there for joining us. We will continue to profile some of the outstanding professors we have here in the College of Arts and Letters at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.